There's a funny thing about American cheese. It's after you've placed it on a piece of white bread. The bread's been unpacked and it's been left grilling on a skillet over a freaking gas stove, and the bread's been buttered and it's been sitting there for a few minutes, and you've apparently been starving, waiting for dinner. You know, a standard night. And then there's this moment here. You've cut into your grilled cheese, pull it apart, and it does this. I think about this moment a lot. American cheese is nothing if not effusive. A lot of times it's a maximalist cheese. There are just so many ideas, so many recipes, so many gimmicks and tricks. I mean, just listen to that sizzle. The sizzling of a grilled cheese might as well be Mozart's Ninth Concerto for gastronomy. I mean, the level of butter and cheese and capital G grease is off the charts here. I honestly have trouble recording over the sizzle because it gives me goosebumps. I mean, wow. But with the same ingredient, there's also this. And I think this, as much as this, sets the stage for the whole experience. All processed cheese products have an interesting relationship with cooking. Really, only one of them has been consistent, and that's Parmesan cheese. You like Italian food and pizza? Boy, do I have the cheese product for you. You don't? Well, find another cheese product, I guess? Because it's straight up an all Italian American cooking. But Parmesan is actually the weird one here. For Velveeta's different densities to Easy Cheese's different use cases, most of processed cheeses define themselves by variety and taste as well. For Velveeta's different densities to Easy Cheese's different use cases, most of processed cheeses define themselves by variety in taste as well as in the dishes they're used in. There is virtually no thematic consistency in these discrete uses, and there doesn't have to be. Each one is tasty, and more importantly, each one offers a totally different context for processed cheese to be used in. It's hard to be bored when you're whisked off to a totally different taste every couple of minutes. And in some ways, American cheese runs the farthest of all. And in some ways, American cheese runs the farthest of all with this variety. You're always eating something new. American cheese just bleeds new and interesting experiences. You thought nachos were different than cheese fries when eating Velveeta? Give me a break. Those dishes had identical gravity. Get on American cheese's level. But despite all this variation, the dozens of different ways you eat all through these cheese products, there's actually a uniting principle throughout all of these cheese products' uses. Heat. It's out there. It's unavoidable. You have to achieve a high level at every time you want your taste buds to go somewhere. And I think that's where American cheese knows it's impossible to make heat something that's only ever fun, but beautiful. Something that's not so obviously beautiful, but also much more copacetic, is a sizzle. When preparing a grilled cheese, you could come back several times to listen to the sizzle of your sandwich lying on the griddle. You don't get to taste the sandwich, and it's not also... You don't get to taste the sandwich, and it's not... You don't get to taste the sandwich, and it's also not remotely close... You don't get to taste the sandwich, and it's also not remotely close to adequate doneness. It's literally just the sizzling of the bread. American cheese and bread sitting in a hot pan amongst a few pats of butter. You also don't get to taste the sandwich. Stop cooking for a second, it says to you. go and listen and feel something that isn't quite joy, it says. As you cook the grilled cheese, you can see the bread toasting and reaching its peak doneness. The cheese starts oozing out the side of the 2 pieces of bread of not quite done toast until it reaches perfection. You've determined the grilled cheese has reached its full potential and you pull it from the skillet, but it's not done yet. Should you cut it horizontally or vertically? Should you just bite into it whole? What about a diagonal cut? Should I have it with a glass of whole milk or Coca-Cola? But it doesn't matter. It's this. The pull. I don't quite know how to talk about the pull. I think it's quite literally the only time you forget about food when eating something. There's this meaning and context to this moment. It brings you back to your childhood, before society's dilemmas and injustices got in your way, before the destruction of the ozone layer and so much more. Maybe it brings you back to this moment so you can remember what it was like to live in peace. Whatever the case is, it brings you back to this. Why isn't American cheese a cheese? Is it the emulsifying agents? The vegetable oils? Salt and food coloring? Maybe it doesn't have the right proportion of moisture to weight. But why does American cheese need to even be a cheese? Why, if it can do anything a cheese can,